Now, of course, we've entered another week of power cuts, extreme power cuts as well. They are going to fluctuate at a slightly less intense level, albeit still pretty serious, stages 3 and 4. Eskom says its diesel suppliers remain problematic. Constraints are affecting the bulk supply. The utility says it expects diesel deliveries from Tuesday, but it is warning of higher blackout stages due to uncertainty over the national grid stability. Stage 3 power cuts are due to run until Thursday. This is during the day. It intenses up to stage 4 for the evening peaks kicking in. So from 4 o'clock, that happened today at 4 until midnight. So that's what we're looking at potentially for most of this week. Eskom says, of course, it is going to give an update on Wednesday, or if there are any significant changes before that. And of course, President Cyril Ramaphosa has also addressed the issue. He's admitted power cuts are going to be with us for some time to come. Speaking through his weekly newsletter this morning, he's admitted there is no quick fix to load shedding. The president says the immediate goal is to reduce the frequency and severity of the rolling blackouts. This, he says, will be done by addressing power station breakdowns. Ramaphosa says Eskom is implementing measures to address the shortage and poor quality of coal. The utility will also relax content requirements for spare parts to make maintenance more efficient. The National Electricity Crisis Committee also working, he says, on legislative and policy reforms. Of course, we know it's having a massive impact across all sectors of society. Concerns now over exams, that they could be affected by power cuts. Of course, we're edging closer to the end of the year. University students in eThekwini in KwaZulu-Natal worried about studying in the dark. They say it's going to reflect on their academic report if they can't keep the lights on to do the work they need to do. Also concerned about safety at residences, access to health facilities when the lights are off. Nqobile Madlala has spoken to some students and joins us now. Nqobile, thank you so much. This is an important issue. We know that students at university, tertiary level, of course, school children, moving into that last phase of the year where studying, writing exams becomes all important. What are they telling you?
Well, Sally, they're telling me that it's been very difficult for the past few days since they have been experiencing load shedding. Now, you remember that Durban has had much lesser load shedding compared to nationally. This is, of course, because they're still reeling really from the floods that had happened in the area. But now what they're saying, though, is that this is new to them, first of all, to have these long hours of load shedding. But more than anything, it's coming at a time when they really need to be studying. So a lot of them just saying that they're worried about the fact that when they go to class that they won't be properly prepared. Some of them are saying that from next week they are going to be writing these exams, and they've got that anxiety because they're worried about the fact that they won't be prepared enough, but also because their families might not be safe. So some of the things that are coming out of that is that emotionally they feel like they're not prepared, mentally they feel that they're not prepared. They're saying that also they find themselves having to walk in dark alleys going back to res, and this is very difficult for them because they don't know what could potentially happen to them whilst they are on their way to school. But I mean, we did speak to the students. Please listen in for some more.
When I'm studying, I create a timetable. Like for example, at 5 o'clock to 7, I'm going to be studying. At 10 to 12, I'm going to be studying. Now then, if there's load shedding, then my timetable is going to be a little bit problematic because I can no longer function, you see. And then now we usually call it here, it's called exam week. This entire week is going to be just exams. Now then, we cannot study for those exams because now there's load shedding. We cannot study. And then even if we're trying to do some researches for assignments, we cannot do that because there's load shedding. We live at residences. We use Wi-Fi to connect so that you can search on the internet. And if you try, maybe you have luck by trying to buy data. You buy data, the network is gone. You cannot search. Even if you have data, you cannot search.
Yeah, and I have to say, Nqobile, I was actually in Durban this past weekend, and they certainly don't have power cuts as severe as we're experiencing here in Johannesburg. We have up to 8 hours a day on stage 5. Durban, certainly not as much, but definitely having an impact. And bearing in mind it's a tourism area and it's trying to get back on its feet after the floods in April, where infrastructure is still under such severe strain. So what are the authorities saying about the area and how it's doing?
Well, we did speak to the Deputy Mayor, and Mr. Mavundla spoke to us, Sally, telling us that there's quite a lot of things that they're still working on. He says that, yes, there were infrastructure that was affected by the by the floods, but now load shedding just makes it worse. I mean, we did go to Otongate, which is the water and sanitation area, which they're still building. And he was just speaking about the fact that some of the things that they need to do on the ground takes much longer, because you remember that these are the communities that still need water. We have seen what the infrastructure, how the infrastructure was during the floods. So it was going to take quite a lot of money to make sure that the place is up and running again. So now he's saying that when load shedding kicks in, their pumps are not working, which means that they cannot pump the enough water for the community, which just exacerbates the situation. Also, it sort of stalls what they are doing. So he's saying that load shedding is one thing that they fear, and I mean, they've been looking at it. They are worried about what is happening, but at the moment they just sort of need to push and ensure that they are getting back on their feet as eThekwini municipality. But I mean, in the meantime, speaking to those students, Sally, they were also highlighting that these are the issues that they have to face they're faced with. So not just load shedding, but also things like water cuts and so on. Others even have load reduction, which exacerbates the situation. And that, of course, was reflected on that conversation that I had with the Deputy Mayor.
All right, we don't have that bite, but certainly they're facing a lot of problems in that region. We know, of course, that the levels of E. coli in the seawater in Durban and Umhlanga are still a problem. Do you get a sense, Nqobile, before we let you go, that with just less than 3 months before the holiday season hits its peak, the Durban and surrounds is going to be geared up for the festive season?
Well, certainly from what I have known, having lived in KwaZulu-Natal for quite some time, I can tell you this much, that tourism has been one thing that has been driving eThekwini. So it's something that is always being highlighted. And I mean, having spoken to the Deputy Mayor, you could hear from him that there's quite a lot that they are doing to ensure that KwaZulu-Natal is again up and ready, especially eThekwini, which is where tourism is mostly peaking during these times. So this is something that has been in their heart. And you can see that they're working very hard. And an area where we were, they did even highlight that at some points there was not even roads. Now they've managed to pull that back. But of course, you can't win in every bit, Sally, because I mean, some parts are still struggling quite a lot. I mean, I've been speaking to people that live in Hammersdale, and they were saying that some of their areas don't have power from 7 o'clock at night because of load reduction. So there's quite a lot of problems that are coming in eThekwini municipality. But from where we are standing, Sally, and what I have heard from the Deputy Mayor, they are working quite hard to ensure that it's up and ready. Probably before that festive season, there will be more difference. I mean, we've already seen what happened during the floods, and there's a bit more change compared to that time.